Changes in latitudes, changes in attitudes. The headline to my intro thread to the Fastlane forum in October of 2011 was "Life intersected with an ironic detour." To those who know me personally, you know exactly what I am talking about. That delayed our inevitable escape from the frozen tundra. I'd like to believe this would have happened sooner, but we all have excuses for inaction. It's time to set sail. I watched a friend from this forum pack his whole life, his whole family, and his whole future into a U-Haul trailer and head south. He arrived to his promised land after a few months on his journey, and never looked back. We're about to do the same thing. Waiting on the final milestone event that will happen by mid-May. In early June we will be wheels up and heading south. Come along for the ride in our figurative U-Haul. I will chronicle as much of the journey as I can for you, here on the pages of the Fastlane forum. This is part therapy for me and a place to have a mind release, and part wanting to leave a breadcrumb trail for those who come behind us. We're about to take an epic journey, and inviting you to come along with a front row seat. Destination, Gulf Coast of Florida, ETA, mid-June, 2015. The whole talk is awesome. But, to reiterate what you are saying, started at 7:30 Ravikant. Subscribed. So why Florida? When I wrote the original introductory post, we were on the front side of a new and promising business, most of which has been chronicled in detail for the insiders. We spend an above-average amount of time at the beach, mostly in Hawaii, as a result of a business that is location and time independent. I am working diligently on positioning that business for much bigger things. We're expanding the distribution of the business, and looking at potential distribution partnerships. Eventually, the business will be sold. I am beyond the harvesting phase that James Altucher describes in the cycles of starting up and selling a business, and am entering the phase where it is time to look at exit strategies. Minnesota has a 10% personal income tax on high-income earners. If you have a large exit event as a Minnesota resident running a Minnesota business, in addition to the federal income tax, you are looking at writing a check to the state of just over 10% of the net income from any large transaction. Several states, Florida included, are personal income tax-free. Florida derives most of its income from sales tax, a model that hopefully the country will embrace in the form of a fair tax eliminating the personal income tax altogether, but I digress. States with no income tax. States with nearly no income tax. North Carolina also gets favorable mention as they are moving in the right direction, lowering state income tax and trending towards making the list of low-income tax burdens. As MJ may point out, that doesn't mean it is any cheaper to live in these states. They still collect the money. It just comes into them in a different form than personal income tax. However, depending on your income projections for the next few years, it may matter to you how your state takes your money. For us, we're setting up residency in a state with a favorable personal income tax, anticipating down the road it will make a difference to us personally on how much money we are able to put in the bank. We're not moving to Florida strictly for tax purposes. We're moving to Florida for a change in latitude. We'll end up contributing a ton to the local economy wherever we end up. We will, however, be in better control of how those contributions flow. So, Florida it is. We considered Texas also, but decided that the beaches, the proximity to the Florida Keys, the attractions, and having some family in the area made a difference for us. Our ability to pack up and leave started with the business structure. From the beginning, we integrated MJ's commandment of time, separating your time from your income so that we weren't required to be present for the business to operate. There are currently a couple of Fastlane forum members snorkeling the Great Barrier Reef in Australia while their business assets continue generating income. That is the ultimate exercise of the commandment of time. It's what enables me to sit in Maui for long stretches of time, and what enables us to pack up and move. Wherever. The business we have, for the most part, is automated and outsourced. We've also grown to this point without building a huge physical infrastructure. The reason I am looking for distribution partnerships is so that the business can continue to scale. But I want to use someone else's infrastructure to do it so that I don't need to own physical assets that require maintenance and physical presence. You've heard me talk before about the fact that we use a rigorous office. We have an office currently in Minneapolis, and several months ago I triggered an office lease termination that expires at the end of this month. So, at the end of this month, we will have no physical office. We still have a small warehouse in Minneapolis, but that may or may not be eliminated altogether. 80% of your business will generally come from 20% of your activities, and that is true for our business as well. If I can automate and outsource the 20% of the activity that generates the 80% of the income, we might just cut the rest loose altogether. I want to eliminate the dependence on any location that requires manual intervention. So, if I can't get some of the items to be less hands-on manual intensive, we might just have to cut those and move on. They're not big contributors to the big picture anyway. Never fall in love with your stuff, because it's just stuff. So, we switched with riggers over to a virtual office. Technically, we become location independent. There are several hundred riggers offices in North America, and now we can walk in and use any of them. In addition, we still have an office address for all packages, mailing, phone answering, etc. We have a business presence. It will sit in Minneapolis for a while, until I transfer it to Florida. Riggers' virtual offices can be transferred anywhere. So, whenever we want, we flip a switch, turn it off in Minneapolis, and turn all of it to Florida or wherever. No longer tethered to an office. In addition, we're currently using for our phone system. It's a virtual phone system, which sounds and feels like a big company phone system. It will follow us wherever we go, whether I am working from an office in Minneapolis, or a boat in the Florida Keys. So, from a perception standpoint, we're set with Ring Central. When I decide to, we simply disconnect the Minneapolis phone numbers, and build new ones with Florida prefixes. Half hour to switch everything over, and we're in business with Florida phone numbers. So, the office tether is cut, the warehouse space is minimal, and I have one person staying back in Minneapolis that can run the minimal operations left here, and the phone system is virtual, as is the office. Separated from time, separated from a location. We don't have a place to live in Florida. We're going on an expedition there in mid-April. I rented a house that sits directly on the Gulf Coast, so we can walk out from the beach house directly to the ocean. We'll use it as our headquarters for a couple of weeks while we try and find a place to stay. I have bought a few family members one-way plane tickets already for June, and the plan is I will drive down with my son in one of the vehicles, and pick the others up at the airport in mid-June. We're going to tow a medium-sized U-Haul trailer, as most of the furniture and all but critical belongings will not be making this trip. We will also be transporting at least one other vehicle using a car transport system, and having that arrive a few days before we do, so that we'll have at least 2 vehicles there when we get to town. We're not going to buy a place in Florida, so we're looking for a decent rental property for the time being, like a 6-month to 1-year lease. A lot changes in a year, and we're not even sure what area we want to live in. We need sunshine, alcohol, and ocean air to help make longer-range decisions like that. So, for now, we need a place to crash and use as a home base. By the way, the money we have does give us a little edge. However, realize that being paper millionaires doesn't mean we have money falling out of our pockets. The journey we are heading on starts with the intention to change the scenery. Anyone can do what we are about to do, once you cast off the bowlines. It's not about money. We're not poor, so it certainly helps in our quest that we don't have to worry much about that, but frankly, if you are poor where you live you will start poor where you are going, so what difference does it make? In fact, you might find that the move is the best thing you could do for yourself. We're packing our shit in a U-Haul and heading off for parts unknown. We'll live there on the same money we're living on now. If I had zero money, I could do the same thing with a suitcase and a one-way bus ticket. In some ways, it might be easier. We all have many reasons why we're stuck where we are stuck. Many of us are imprisoned by chains of our own selection. There are very few reasons why you can't make a radical change in your circumstances, and in your surroundings. Fear is up towards the top of the list of chains that people need to cast off. That's all for now. Probably won't have many if any updates until the scouting expedition in mid-April. Thanks for riding along with us. This post alone is worth real money. Thank you. Hit me up on your way through ATL and I'll buy you a nice meal. Proud of you. So we are on the eve of the scouting trip. We're leaving in the morning and heading south with a bag full of flip-flops, swimsuits, and hope. Life is generally what you make it. We're a sum total of the choices that we make, both large and small along the way. We're looking forward to some time in the sand, hopefully finding a place that we'd like to hang out in for a while, and a recalibration. It's somewhat surreal to put things into proverbial mothballs here, as so much of life happened where you were from. In some ways, it is easier when a company moves you for a job, like when we packed up and moved to Arkansas. It's easier because it's less voluntary, and it's easier because it's financed generally by someone else. Less risk. A friend that recently moved his family halfway across the country had no regrets, other than the distance that it put in between him and his first grandchild. The challenge. The newness. Exploring. The weather. The beach. The economy. The breaking of monotony. Living what you preach. Freedom. Lifestyle. Health. Excitement. Unknown. Stretching. Becoming. All reasons to take the step. Man, am I excited for you and the family. I can't wait to see how this affects your daily productivity and growth of the business. I'd bet it will be huge. You are giving me a push with this thread. Been looking to move, have no idea where yet for the past year. Definitely gonna check the thread regularly. We talked about it for too long. We let too many sunsets slip past. Super awesome talk, thanks for sharing. So many good points in it, but to share some notes on a key part. Looking forward to following your progress. You sound so happy. For those of you who listened to the podcast, Rachel's wedding is in late May, or we'd probably be gone already. There's something liberating about shutting a door behind you, driving south and not stopping until you see the ocean. Yep. I've done that a couple of times in the past, and the wife and I cannot wait to do it again. Shooting for 18 months from the meetup. The only thing I would be concerned with is hurricanes and humidity. And all the crazy people. Congrats on the move. I packed up and moved to the Gulf Coast last September. Coming from upstate NY, it snowed 119.1 inches this past winter. Was a major change in lifestyle. You and your family will love it down here. Planning to check this out sometime over the next week. Dave, you succeeded in the harshest of conditions. I couldn't. I wonder what kinds of wonders the move will do for you and your family. I'd imagine being able to hit the ocean at moment swim has got to be incredibly motivating to enhance what you've already done. I'm seeing news stories about a lot of stingrays on Clearwater Beach. Hope you have the time of your life. Welcome Vig, from another Gulf Coaster. For those with location-independent businesses, which state are they registered in? How does that make a difference in terms of taxation? Is your business registered in MN? Are there any serious difficulties with moving the entity to FL? My goal is to go back and forth between FL and NY. NY has pretty strict policies when it comes to trying to avoid income tax, even if you have your primary residence in FL. If you spend more than 180 days in NY, you're subject to their income taxes. NY is horrible. If you make any decent amount of money, you're going to pay 48.5% of it to state and federal. 8.82% makes a large difference. Make sure you do the Stingray Shuffle. If you haven't already, check out some of the local news stations on TV. You'll see some ridiculous stuff that you never find up north or anywhere other than Florida. Haha, for the record, my TV is rarely on. I just paid nothing to Florida in my taxes. Cue up the end of that Ferris clip. Quick update. I am writing this from my temporary office, aka Lanai, overlooking the Gulf of Mexico. It's 2 p.m. in Florida, and in my absence the company has already surpassed last year's sales comparative days with half the day to go. It looks like we will double last year's sales today. Not bad for a Wednesday with an absentee owner. Meanwhile, back at the office, they're shipping the largest wholesale order we have had year to date to a new customer, and they also launched a new SKU today, complete with a press release, some product video support, and a simultaneous Amazon launch. So, while that is not technically passive, it's passive for me today. The machine keeps on turning. We spent the day driving around looking at everything from trailers to mansions. There's a huge dichotomy between the beach life and the city life near the beach. We're likely to look inland, but then eventually have a cheaper escape to the beach either through rental or a small condo or something. The entire Gulf Coast is littered with places, and they really hit most all income brackets. We drove around Bel Air, Florida. I didn't even know that existed, but certainly at least parts of it would rival Bel Air, California. I'm torn. We need to put a more hardcore press on finding a place to rent, but at the same time, I am super close to Tampa Bay Downs. What to do? We spent some time looking in the Soho area of Tampa. Flats, brownstone buildings, etc. But I think we need more space. I haven't done shit for work over the last few days. One of these days, I need to get over to one of the riggers' offices here in Tampa and at least spend some time cranking. As great as being able to work from anywhere is, having a bottle of Grey Goose holding hands with a bottle of Cabo Wabo on the counter and the waves crashing in the background isn't necessarily distraction-free. The good news is I have some major work to do for a client in town here, and in so doing a lot of the expenses from the trip are a write-off, not to mention our pending business relocation to this area. My advice to you is save every single receipt, give it to your CPA, and let them figure out what a legitimate business expense is. Chances are, the Cabo Wabo is on me, not the taxpayers. On the to-do list. Charter a boat, go see my family south of here, find a few awesome restaurants. And oh shit! Find a house to move to. So I stopped by Riggers today to get some work done, and ended up leasing an office. It's Friday afternoon. It has been interesting to watch the weekend warriors this afternoon start to migrate towards the beach. They've worked all week to get to the weekend, and the weekend is finally here. There's triple the average beach chairs and tents up now as the weekend rolls in. They can crack a beer, dip their toes in the surf, and forget about their 9 to 5 for a few days. Life moves in slow motion at the beach. Monday is a world away. Life moves in chapters. People come in, and people fade out. Jobs come, and jobs go. Kids grow up. People die. Babies are born. You are in debt. You're out of debt. You're into religion. You're out of religion. You work out. You get fat. You get skinny. If you look back on your adulthood, you will see that there were beginnings, middles, and ends of distinct periods, or chapters. Nobody's life is static. The day you started doing what you did today was the start of the chapter you're in. Is it interesting? Do you like where you are at? If you could choose it, would you choose where you were at today? Physically? Mentally? Geographically? Would you choose it? Did you know you did choose it? What chapter are you writing as you read this? Where are you at? Can you recalibrate? Can you start something new? Should you move halfway across the country because you can? Anyone that says that they can't write their own ending doesn't get free will. Where do you want to be? What did you do today? Did you work some suck-ass job just because that's where the sum total of your choices through today found you? Are you one of the people I am watching set up your chair on the beach because it's Friday? I spent too many years of my life being one of the people setting up chairs on a Friday. Start a chair rental company. Start a job. Pass. Too much like real work. Not a job. Fund a local kid starting a chair rental company. Write about the experience while sipping spiced rum and pineapple juice. If you continue with posts like these, we'll move in 3 months, not a year as planned. Florida is on my list for potential destinations. Miami, Sunday. Heading off on a boat cruise to look for dolphins. We think we found a house to lock into. Coincidentally, it ended up being a stone's throw from a horse racing track. Go figure. 10 minutes from the beach, a few minutes from the office, close to the health club we are members of, and right by the mall my wife wants to live at. We'd never buy it, but it will make a decent crash pad until we decide where we want to be down the road. It's at least a destination I can point the U-Haul towards in June. So, we leased a house. As usual, we broke most of the rules to do so. 1. We wanted a move-in date that was later than the homeowner wanted to. They asked for financials on us. We passed 3. They asked for tax returns. We passed 4. We did give them credit report access. That's about it. A funny thing happens when you change the leverage in a negotiation. They wanted to lease us the house more than we wanted the house. There are 1,000 houses we could lease, but there's only one leasee that looks like us. Leverage. We gave them mostly what they wanted. Most of their concerns center around money, as they should. So, we didn't fight them on money. We demanded the terms we wanted, and refused to play the game most people play regarding their absurd demands. In the end, they get what they want, money, and we get what we want, a crash pad. Nothing else really matters in this transaction. If you can get to the heart of what your opponent wants in a negotiation, and give them that or something close to that. Everything else is just semantics. We'll sign the lease tonight, and fly back to Minnesota tomorrow. A good tenant is priceless. A bad tenant can be hell. That's awesome. I'd love to hear a bit more of the details about how you accomplished the 2 points above. What were those conversations like? How they play out? Congrats on your new lease. I just met with my tax accountant, and was reminded of yet another reason to change locations. There are 7 U.S. states with 0 state personal income tax. Those include, in addition, there are states with minimal personal income taxes. Those include: I have friends that in their very young 20s decided they didn't want to live in the Midwest anymore. So, with very little but the clothes on their backs, they headed to the West Coast, picked an area, and built a life there. I am convinced that the trappings of life ensnare people. You get a job or two, a mortgage, your kids are in school, and suddenly you are geographically trapped. If I could give any advice to my younger self, it would have been to sacrifice rushing into adulthood long enough to figure out what lifestyle I wanted before marriage, kids, obligations, and more permanent lifestyle choices came into play. Mark Twain was right when he talked about setting sail. My youngest son is in college. His choices were to do the responsible thing this summer and work a job for college-level pay, or cast off for adventure. I am pleased to report that he opted for the path less traveled. There's plenty of time in life to play the role of a grown-up if you really want to. Granted, He has a bit more of a safety net than most people, but nonetheless he's decided that there is simply too much of life to experience than to stand in one place for too long. Do you like the mountains? Do you want to be in Arizona when half of the rest of the world is living in a deep freeze? Does the ocean wind calm your soul? Do you like to downhill ski, snorkel, mountain bike, whale watch? We had a lot of reasons for staying where we were, mostly as a result of life choices. We are a sum of the choices we make. We were in a window of time where we saw the escape hatch, and we took it. It's there if you look for it. A lot of people go on vacation, and wish they could stay. They could, really. Just like MJ talks about trading 5 days of work for 2 weekend days of freedom. So people trade 50 weeks of suck for 2 weeks of playing where they want to play. Why can't it be a full-time life thing? If you love California, why can't you move there? There's a happiness scale. Where are you at on it? The thread about moving to Scottsdale. Pick your Scottsdale. It's not about that town. It's about that concept. If you moved to Scottsdale because it sounded cool in the book, you missed the point of why his personal relocation was even important. It's not the town itself. People read The Millionaire Fastlane, and MJ's journey to Arizona. They then want to move to Arizona. It's not about Arizona. It's about freedom. Your Arizona might be Boulder, Colorado. It might be Latvia. It might be Honolulu. It might be Jamaica. It might be Dallas, Texas. You're running out of excuses as to why staying in your comfort zone makes sense. When you reach your breaking point, look for the escape hatch and take the exit. Life is short. Navigate yourself to where you want to be. I've been searching for the words to explain to friends and family why I'm leaving the East Coast again and going back to Arizona, not inspired by MJ. Your last post put it as simple and to the point as I could imagine. Thank you. Enjoy your adventure. I am tired of MN as well. I have 45 and low of 36 on Monday. Screwing around with 3 boats and a jet ski, in and out of storage, maintenance etc. For 90 days of summer getting to be a drag? Yeah, first world problems. Keeping a home on Prior Lake for family or business for now. Lightening the load, selling a Lake Minnetonka property I was going to build a dream home on, and now looking around for an oceanside home, either domestic or international. I'll either move the manufacturing operation or sell it. A multi-millions customer wants it to be vertically integrated and retain certain branded and private label marketing or sales product lines. Contracting W or the buyer, in order to be more virtual or mobile. Best wishes to you for making the move. I was talking with my son the other day, specifically about snowmobiles. We have a snowmobile sitting at my place that hasn't been used for several years. We came to the realization that in the South, there has never been a year where you couldn't use a jet ski. That's a novel concept. In Minnesota, I have a few cars we have to store for 6 months during the winter. It's common here to hear people say you can't beat Minnesota in the summer. Apparently those people have never been to Scottsdale in February, or March, or April. Ha, exactly. It'd be cheaper and easier to rent a snowmobile for $200 a day for the 2 to 3 days you can ride. I'll have to check to see if there is such a beast in the metro, then get rid of mine. I think the boating clubs that sell rental memberships aren't doing too bad either. I'd especially consider them if I didn't live on the lakes. I'd pay $500 or more a day plus fuel for a good-size cruiser and captain to take me and friends out on Tonka or the St. Croix. Sure beats screwing around with mine. I had a nice boat on Lake Minnetonka. One year I decided to save a couple $100 and winterize it myself. Apparently you need to get all of the water out of the block. I met friends yesterday and I said solemnly, I spent the last 10 years here, I am not going to spend the next 10 in this cold city. People ask me how come you are single? I respond semi-serious. I live in Ottawa. Let the adventure begin soon. Another prime motivator to get out of Eel was something similar for me. I've always loved convertibles and it just seemed impractical to own one in the Midwest. Between the winters and the humid summers, it just seemed like its total use would have been a few days out of the year. The first time I sold my first biz, my first purchase was a convertible. The top was perpetually down. They have a few around here around the Ayers Lakes. Here's one. They even have boat club memberships. Definitely the way I'd go. Immigration. What does that mean? I'm not a citizen of the US. I can only stay in the country for 3 months legally before a holiday visa would run out. There are other options available to me such as the J1 program through college, when I finish school. Doesn't let me live in the US forever and getting hired by an American company. If you're aware of any other ways of moving to the US, I would be delighted to hear. Green card. It worked for a lot of people I know. I can set you up with the Havasa boat rentals. Help get this company off the ground when he started. Big learning experience. Nice guys. I love this thread. One of the things I am struggling with right now is that I feel like I am doing the of what everyone else is doing. While they are moving to their dream destination as far as geography, climate, and weather, I'm in this strange scenario where I feel like I might have to the beautiful weather, seasons and topography of the Carolinas to go to the dry desert area of TX where there is no ocean or mountains or greenery like there is here, and that bothers me. I feel like my life here has become stagnant and that it's time for a change. The business I am working on could be done from anywhere really. But there are reasons why perhaps I go to Texas. Family, friends, no income taxes. The manufacturers I want to use for my business are there, major metro, singles, more opportunities, etc. But it's not my dream place. I have been vacillating back and forth about it and trying to make a decision that would be good for me. Honestly, what I would prefer right now I couldn't afford anyway, like spending the summer in Santorini, Greece, or going back to Italy to live in Tuscany for 6 months. So, I have to face reality. I can't stay here anymore just for the weather. Something has to change soon. Thoughts, anyone? Not really. Nothing changes unless we do. So many mosquitoes. You're right. Thanks for reminding me. LOL, I'm laughing with you, not at you. When I first got my Tonka cruiser, I had toilet problems. Damn thing wouldn't work, and it got filled up from a boat full of people. Took it in and the marina told me I had to flip on the accessories switch on the control panel. I'm moving to Fort Worth this Friday. Listen. My top 3 areas that were in consideration: 1. Gulf Coast of Florida. 2. 3. Charlotte, North Carolina, whose personal income taxes are declining to the point of reasonable. I love the Dallas or Ft. Worth area, and there are a handful of forum members, both old and new there. Awesome area, awesome amenities, awesome culture. It ended up just not being warm enough for us, but we gave strong consideration to the point of looking for houses to Dallas. So, if you need a change of pace and scenery to recalibrate, I would not hesitate to recommend DFW. Interesting. More mosquitoes in DFW than Minneapolis. I guess I spent too many summer on my grandparents' farm in Dassel or Cocato, MN. Gave me a bad impression. And yes, DFW is an awesome scene. Denton area is a really great place to live. It's kind of flawed. Minnesotans are just too cheap to pay for pest control services. I'd also vote for Central Texas. I'm spending all summer in Greece. Did the same last year too. It really doesn't cost any more than staying in the US. Think about it. LOL. Love it. My wife rented a condo in Scottsdale for the month of February, where she could vacation. Where a dozen or more people from the Fast Lane Forum, Live. Just want to say thanks for this thread. I realized that we can change latitudes, even if it's for a very short period of time. After my wife got home from work on Friday, we were sitting around trying to figure out what to do for the weekend. My suggestion was to just get in the car and drive somewhere. Like Florida. She said that we can't do that because it's too far, there wasn't enough time, we didn't have a plan, etc. Then I said, why? What's stopping us other than all of those excuses? So, we got in the car at 8 p.m. and headed 12 hours south, driving all night until we finally arrived to the beaches. We didn't plan a single thing except for the hotel. Everything worked out. It actually ended up being our best trip ever. We only stayed for 2 nights, then got back in the car and drove all of the way home, with 2 dogs. But in that short period of time I experienced a whole new culture. I learned that people actually boil peanuts, which I hated. I discovered a few business ideas, and I think that we found a new place to live someday. I know that this isn't exactly what you're talking about because it wasn't a full-blown move, but I realized that even a short-term change in latitudes can add a lot of charge back into life. And looking back, the journey was actually more fun than arriving to the destination itself. It was hard and I wanted to quit at times. It reminded me very much of the journey to the fast lane. I added a pic of the beach at 7 a.m. after driving all night. Nothing beats the feeling of driving 12 hours to step out onto the beach in the morning when most people are still asleep. I moved the opposite direction than most people. I spent 41 years of my life in San Diego. I was only 0.25 miles from the beach during my last few years there. The move to AS was initially for retirement. I asked each family member to research and come up with 2 places that they would like to live. Nobody had any input. So I suggested either St. George, Utah, or Prescott, Arizona. We settled on Prescott. Well, we lived there a few years until a divorce got in the way. I moved to Scottsdale and have been there since. My wife and I have talked about heading back to CA. She is originally from SoCal also. We decided that we liked it here in the desert for a number of reasons. So, as you suggest, I live where I want for the reasons that I want. Although another house in Nevada might come into play in the future, I love this story. This story breathes life and hope. Excellent. Freedom. You can do whatever you want to do. And I bet your wife learned a bit about what it might feel like to be a free agent. You live where other people vacation. I love this too. Best trips I ever made were on a motorbike with toothbrush and credit card and a vague direction in our head like the south of France. It's liberating to forget have to, need to, should do, and just do. I wish I had known. I would have gone with her. Ha. Just kidding. Seriously, I would love to rent a place in Scottsdale for a month if I could find somewhere that was affordable. Just to hang out and have a change of scenery. I only spent 1 night and day in Scottsdale before, so really didn't get to see much, but I loved what I did see. It's funny, when I was going through New Mexico and Arizona I felt like I was on another planet. Kinda like Mars. Call me boring, but this is the most interesting part of the whole thread. That what freedom. You run e-commerce stores, right? Do your employees ship product, or is it all outsourced to third parties? How many employees do you have? Why the rigorous office though? Do you feel you need it to get things done, or is just to have an address? Edit, I'm asking because I can see me or my business going a similar route not too long from now. Thanks. Thanks Vig for taking us along for your journey. Best of luck to you and the family at the new location. I hear that over and over from people who've been there, done that. Food for thought. I'm thinking aloud of a part-time assistant to handle day-to-day customer emails or escalations or anything non-financially do sourcing, marketing, growth. All the other heavy repetitive lifting handled by big, stable third parties, couriers or fulfillment centers. That would shed 3 hours of fat off each day plus divorce me from my location. Anyway, keep reminding us how great life can be, and best of luck. Agreed. Thanks for the heads up. That's pretty close to the model. And, keep in mind that personal assistants tend to be way better, way more loyal, and way more trustworthy than the average run-of-the-mill employee. Pay them well, and give them extremely high schedule flexibility. As long as they are connected, their location is flexible also. Helps if they can write blogs, handle social media, and basically keep everything running. By the way, you realize even with that person, it is only a matter of time when they start to question why they don't make more once it settles in what the business makes. And, I tell every single one of them, when they get to that point, not if, that is their time to leave and go do their own thing. Every single employee, without exception, reaches the point where they start to think their contributions exceed their pay. Especially when you are living the remote life and following the commandment of time. I talked to the founder of the company that I work for now. We do about 30 manually, and he told me that this was the one thing about business that he did not expect when he started: the headaches that come from dealing with employees and people. Vig knows what he is talking about, and I am really trying to let this lesson sink in now before I have a super successful business. That way I can grow it in a smart way and not just hire people for the sake of it. Thanks, Vic. Amazing thread. This is definitely something I'm struggling with. When I started out, I was looking at offshore locations and countries with lower taxes before I was making any real money. Now that I'm in a better place financially and location independent, I'm too comfortable to even move to another location. Also, it would probably help, if just due to exposure to a new culture, but Germany has spoiled me. I often love this thread. Awesome, Vig, welcome back. I'll give you my honest opinion about my situation. I kind of did the opposite, and I did it for various reasons. I moved away from my home and beautiful city to a shithole city in New Brunswick, BC. I wasn't working efficiently and had to put myself into a very uncomfortable situation in order to shift my ass into gear. For the past 9 months, I left everything behind: family, friends, condos, car, parties, social life, etc. I packed my suitcases and I've been consulting for a company out east. On the side, I've been laser focused on my business without interruptions or distractions, every night and weekend. I have progressed immensely ever since. Once my business is operating as it should, this is the direction I want to follow. Exactly what this thread is all about. I'm just making a little detour on the way. Life is too short to say you'll do it when you retire. Why wait till you're 65 and can't enjoy it? I didn't have many employees, 5 at most, but it was one of the elements I least enjoyed of entrepreneurship. In the end, the decision to sell, versus grow, expand and hence add employees came down to knowing that adding more people would have added more of what I didn't enjoy. Glad I made that decision not to. Having been a solopreneur now for some years now, I don't think I ever would want to start something that would require a substantial workforce for execution. I love this thread. Just for clarification, do you mean traditional employees sitting in an office or virtual ones too? For instance, do you consider a personal assistant an employee or a contractor? I know what a pain in the ass having an office with employees is, but when I hire virtual employees it feels different. They seem to be much more entrepreneurial than your typical desk jockey. Solid info. I might not even tell them I'm 1,000 miles away. Give the impression I'm in the general area, out and about meeting people or doing stuff to grow the business, and might drop in later today or this week if I find the time. Effectively, I'd still be at my business once a week, then once a month, etc. Now figuring out what a fulfillment center does. I sell used products, so ideally items have to be graded and tested. Looking into this. Thanks for sharing this, MJ. Rep. Plus it reminds me of Vig's post where he shows an office that he thankfully didn't rent. We shouldn't judge the success of our business by the size of our office or the number of employees. Having an office or having a head count isn't an end goal, just potential stepping stones towards our end goals. Thanks for the reminder. Thanks for this. Does that mean you actually let them go at that stage, or just that you tell them those are the options, stay on current salary, or strike out on their own? I could understand that when someone gets to that point, then it's better to get someone else in. As opposed to small to medium-sized Asian companies in general, where the first thing they mention is the amount of factory workers they employ. That becomes sort of the point of no return. I don't fire them, but once it manifests itself and human nature says it always will, that's the point that they are encouraged to go try something else. Most people that have ever worked with and/or for me should have a unique skill set that they would be able to go replicate this type of business, but interestingly enough, most go take other regular jobs. Jobs with less transparency and less freedom. Maybe for more pay, maybe not. They just reach a point where they want more of what I have, and feel entitled. Dick Schulze is the founder of Best.Buy, and the richest man in Minnesota. At one point, he had 50,000 employees working for him, all making him and the shareholders and the corporate machine more money. On the day that each of the 50,000 people were hired, they were all happy to have a job, and all agreed to the wages they were making. Most of them were probably pumped up on their first day just for the chance to be part of Best.Buy. One by one, they all got dissatisfied with their wage. They're McDonald's workers, thinking they are a bigger part of the success than they really are. One by one, most got envious of the modern-day Dick Schulze for the wealth his ideas accumulated. They thought they were entitled to more. They weren't there when he thought of the idea that created their jobs. They weren't there when he bet it all, taking a double mortgage on his house and putting everything at risk. They weren't there when he fought on the edge of bankruptcy twice. They weren't there when he decided to give all of his employees health insurance. They just wanted more. It happens. That's the $15 or our McDonald's discussion. It happens with every employee, in every successful business, in nearly every job. When I was 22 years old, I thought I should be the president of the company I worked for, which, ironically, was Best.Buy. So, I just know the cycle, see the cycle, identify the cycle, and help people recognize what is going to make them happy along the way. Everyone loves their job and their boss and their salary on their first day. When that changes, for any reason, it's time to pursue what you think are greener pastures. We all know they are not greener, but that is the point when you shift from being an asset to being a liability for me. And that's the window when it is healthy for the employee, and the business, to make a change. Virtual employees are the best. They're someone else's pain in the ass. And, you can fire them on a whim. No strings attached. Not employees. Virtual waiters are contractors. Independent agents that serve at your pleasure. If they suck, you fire them. If they don't do what you want them to do, you fire them. If they bore you, you fire them. That's it. They serve at the total discretion of whomever is paying for that hour. I am talking about a virtual assistant, a bookkeeper or CPA out there in the world somewhere, or anyone else that you pay for a service that doesn't have the typical boss or employee dependency. Not a W-2 employee, but a virtual outsourced task. The simple distinction to tell which is this. If you could walk in tomorrow, terminate your relationship with them with no strings attached, and simply keep going without the bullshit notice, unemployment, COBRA, etc. They're not an employee. By definition, they would be someone else's pain in the $. Thank you for your answer. That's very helpful. It made me realize that's precisely what I want, which means I have to adjust my business strategy accordingly to grow it completely virtually. I have to admit I'm a bit apprehensive about the idea of having a totally virtual business. For some reason it feels less stable to me, which is probably a completely unfounded view, but you prove that one can achieve great success while taking this approach. You get the best from entrepreneurship without the worst. Your offhand comments are gold nuggets that will save many of us years of frustration. Thank you. This happens to me in every job that I had, either due to wanting more or complete ineptitude of management. It was just a small part of the journey that I wanted more, and it took these experiences to learn that. I think it is the wanting more that eventually leads great employees into becoming entrepreneurs. You get paid to learn, on someone else's payroll. In exchange, you give them your labor and they make money off of your work. Eventually, this value exchange becomes less and less attractive to you, until finally you are wanting to go out on your own, and do it for yourself and your family and your legacy. You don't want to work for someone else for the rest of your life. And another entrepreneur is born. This coming weekend, I have rented a massive truck. What started as just a plan to take a little truck and a few things and get there and buy all new stuff has morphed into renting a massive U-Haul, pulling a car behind it, and a second rig that my son will drive down for me with my F350 pulling his Mustang GT. The drive is going to take us 3 9-hour days, as we will be going slower than I prefer. We'll use about 300 gallons of gas on the way down. I think we will probably leave Monday morning at the crack of dawn, point the trucks southeast, and ease on out of Minnesota. I bought some FRS radios so we can play Smokey and the Bandit on the road. Unfortunately, my Bandit is going to be in my F350 with a car trailer in tow, so we won't be outrunning anyone. I probably should have hired a moving company. I didn't think we were bringing as much stuff as we are. 3 days in that massive truck and my ass is going to be paralyzed. I did find a company here locally that employs military veterans that I am hiring to load us up. Hopefully they're not veterans of World War II. My wife and young kid are not coming down for a couple more weeks, giving me some time to get stuff set up and acclimated. I need to do the critical stuff, like find a tiki bar for the back patio, find some Wengling light, and watch the Belmont a week from Saturday. Oh, and find a house full of furniture. We've reached the point of no return. I have cleared out the Minneapolis office, shut down the storage facilities here, cleaned out our small warehouse, and got everything business-wise buttoned down. The only thing standing between me and the relocation is a couple of days on the calendar and a tremendous amount of last-minute work. Inspirational. A month from now I'll be doing the same. Except headed west to Az. Bought a box truck though. Got it cheap and going to flip it when I get out there. 4 days on the road for us, driving 10 hours a day. I am heading to Yuma next week to look at a golf course that is for sale. That would be the ultimate for my wife and I to sail off into the sunset with. I could either pay money to become part of a club, or could make money while being the club. Not saying that we are purchasing this, just looking. Oh, America. Yuma is about an hour south from where we are moving. Lake Havasu City. Not a bad place to retire, that's for damn sure. I'm thankful I left the US and here in the Netherlands. And I suppose I wouldn't have had the opportunity to fill my time on Entrepreneur Heaven if I stayed there. That was the whole idea, moving here, rewriting the life story, leaving the old reality behind, and being the free thinker. I don't see any beach chairs around here. Lol, I either work on my projects or look at the buildings or church across the street. Maybe a seagull on the light pole. Maybe feeding horses and cows when I take a walk, and it sure is nice crossing people's farmland without anyone getting bent out of shape because you're on their property, and visiting the pigs, goats, horses, cows, chickens, and ducks. Lol, these are my new friends. Ha ha. They don't have much negativity. Who wouldn't like seeing Germany, Belgium, and France? While I left bad circumstances, it's been a blast over here learning everything I have from the fast lane, about business, and writing. This reality is more pleasant and proves how removing yourself from a bad environment, and toxic people can make a big difference in every aspect. While I'm still learning and growing, it's time today to celebrate my fast lane birthday today. And boy, did this forum change my world and my sons back home in 1 year. I'm still lacking the funds, but still it's quite amazing. I had to laugh today, when I talked to my son on Skype, because he's learning to hustle. Lol, he went to a garage sale and bought some video games, and resold them. Lol, I just told him on here we're doing that type of thing and putting it on eBay etc. I didn't think he would listen that fast in 2 days. So, yes, being on here has rubbed off on him. Everything can be changed around, and while we may have fears, we just have to push through them and create our own realities. We picked some new phone numbers today. After the area code, we went with the numbers of 777.xxx 777xxxx. Today marks the day I landed in Canada 11 years ago. For those who are not sure about quitting everything, I left with my passport, a visa and $162. I remember the exact amount. 5,000 kilometers away from everything I knew. Between a military oppressive regime, arrested twice, and scary bearded guys, you know, the ones you see on TV, I chose something else. Life.If, the shy, 20-something who did not speak a word in English did it. You can tell anyway. You better f***ing do it too and choose life. 1. Decided it wouldn't be fun to tow multiple vehicles, so we are leaving one here and transporting a second one with a commercial transport carrier versus towing it too. Now, we'll have one large moving van, and my F350 is a scout vehicle. Gas estimates are still roughly the same. We'll do the drive averaging 3-9 hours says of 600 miles per day. 3. Setting up utilities is a pain in the ass. They all want to run a credit check. I am having none of them run a credit check. I have good credit, but don't want several hard inquiries on my credit report, as those last for 2 years and can have a derogatory effect on your credit score. So, I am paying deposits to all of these clowns versus having them ruin my credit score over utilities. 4. Last minute packing. 5. I hired a team of veterans to come over and help us load the moving van. I specifically requested they send me young workers. Hopefully they are not World War II veterans. 6. Minnesota weather is humid. Florida weather is humid. Florida has no snow in the winter, so Florida wins. 7. The new location has Verizon Fios. Anyone on that? Supposedly it is blazing fast internet. You'll notice a difference when you switch over to fiber optics. Your internet connection stays consistent 24/7. I had it for many years in New York. Actually, I'm using it right now. I'm in New York for the summer. Just like you, I am the definition of just packing up the car and leaving. Been here over a year and a half. I may move again at some point, but at least now it no longer is a big deal. No longer will I make excuses as to why I can ''T. Total mindset shift. Also always enjoy when people post things like wishing I could go back to _ you don't have to go back if you refuse to leave. Day 1. Complete no show. No call. No message. Not answering their phone. Jokes on them as they didn't take a deposit. Serves me right for hiring discount labor. I feel like a girl all dressed up for the prom. And no date. So, tomorrow, the real, high-priced moving team I have used in the past will be here to bail me out. You get what you pay for. So, don't be cheap. Until tomorrow. See you at day 2. Vigilante. The long road ride down to your new home will be very therapeutic. It's just you and the road, and your own thoughts about the start of a new chapter. It almost makes me want to move again, except, I still love it here. Safe travels, my friend. So many chances to do something new. I wrote this in my private journal last night. Time for an update. I made it to the destination. It was a tremendous pain in the $. More than I imagined. Our caravan consisted of me in a 26-foot U-Haul towing a car trailer with a vehicle on it, and my son driving separately in my loaded-down F350. The rig I was driving absolutely should not be legal for a normal driver to drive, as it was the length of a semi with no steering control. It drove similarly to a boat, where it would go in the general direction you want it to, and you just have to hope wind conditions remain good, which changed with each passing semi-truck. It was treacherous, dangerous, and arduous. The trip required 3 days of constant, undivided attention, with both hands on the steering wheel and both eyes on the road at all times. Driving the truck itself would have been okay, but the combination of the truck plus the hauler was completely unsafe, especially through the descent of the mountain ranges in Tennessee. But alas, we finally arrived. I hired a moving company on this side to unpack the truck, and they sent a huge fat guy and an old man as my moving crew. Nonetheless, the truck was unpacked and I am currently adrift in a sea of boxes. My wife and kid will arrive in a week. Meanwhile, I have some furniture being delivered, got the Verizon Fios fiber optic cable installed, and even managed to spray myself in the face with reclaimed sewer water while I was testing out our in-ground sprinkler system. Today marks a shift in the calendar back into work mode. Need to get some stuff reignited on several fronts. Between Rachel, my daughter, getting married a few weeks ago, and then this road trip, the business has been forced to do what it was designed to do, and that's run on autopilot. However, for those of you who have a passive income business model, there's a difference between passive income management and an absentee owner. The business has been neglected for the past few weeks, so I need to blow the cobwebs off and get back into action mode. I picked 2 movie clips from The Truman Show, and I am recommending you watch them both. They're both relevant to scaling the walls in front of you. Many people from the North question why we would want to move to Florida. People like to stay within their comfort zones, and I have noticed an interesting phenomenon. They like you to stay inside their comfort zones as well. Think about the movie The Truman Show with Jim Carrey. Once he discovered there is a world out there much bigger than the artificial constraints he believed were there, he was able to go beyond the wall. You disrupting people's comfort zone by going beyond the wall tends to make people uncomfortable, because it eliminates the artificial barriers they constructed in their own minds to rationalize their own contentment in less than excellent circumstances. What if the walls you perceive to be in front of you are artificial? What if they were constructed by you, or by someone intending to keep you chained? What if this is the first time in your life you realize that, like Truman, like Allen Crawley, like Bioface, like Global Wealth, like me, like thousands of others, you discover you can go. So true. It's interesting that you bring this movie up. I am a big movie or film industry buff, and somehow The Truman Show had slipped by me. Back then it just didn't sound like something I would have been interested in. But after happening upon thousands of good reviews, I watched it for about a month ago, 17 years after the fact. I was blown away. I didn't realize there was going to be anything serious or relative about it, but I couldn't believe the impact it had. I also can't believe I cried during a Jim Carrey movie. Great recommendation, Vic. For those who don't understand it or can't relate, it won't mean much. But for those who have been there, who know what it's like to feel trapped by something invisible, they'll get it! When I quit my great job of 19 years at HP, so many people were advising me not to do it. Why would I leave a job that has done so much for me and other people? I had security and peace of mind. That was 15 years ago. I have felt free ever since. Congrats on making it to Florida. A new chapter in your life has begun and you started it with an adventure. I love this thread. We did the same thing in April 2013. We got the same stories. You are 2 years away from retiring. What if it does not work out? It goes on and on, all from people who complain all day every day about their job and life. We moved from San Diego to Houston. People pulled my wife aside and told her she could never live in the heat and humidity of Houston. Relatives told her how hot it was in Houston. We hit the ground running and have never looked back. Now all of her old friends see our new life and tell her how we are to have gotten out when we did. People are strange. Congrats on your move. I expect the appreciation will really set in around November when you are hanging out on the patio in the evening in shorts. I was going to send you a private message, but for some reason I can''T. I've recently been looking at Florida myself. I'm in Kentucky currently. Looking at Gulf Coast in the Panhandle area. Destin area. Was curious where you settled on the Gulf side. If it was more Gulf side meaning Tampa or more Gulf side meaning Panhandle. I have PMs disabled. Panhandle is still too cold for me. Anything north of Tampa still gets more seasonal change than we want. We ended up north of Venice or Sarasota. I actually prefer the Atlantic side, but we picked the Gulf side for some other reasons. However, being within a few hours of Orlando, near Tampa, a day's drive to the Keys. We're anxious to explore. We also intentionally came down at the worst time of the year per a suggestion from MJ. If you can handle the area in the worst of what it has to offer and everywhere but Hawaii has some rough weather, then you should love it during the best of what it has to offer. I imagine this is good advice for relationships, too. Sorry it wasn't a more fun trip for you. Do you think the main problem was pulling a trailer? Anything else you would do different? We started with the concept of bringing very little, and just buying it here. However, it was a lot more economical in the end to bring stuff, and the crazy part is we have so much crap that my house in Minnesota is still relatively furnished. My wife gets here Tuesday, and then I will get to rearrange the whole place again. There are only 3 ways to do this. 1. Bring nothing and buy everything locally. That's a good option if you can buy used, cheap stuff. 2. Use a moving company. 3. Do what we did, which is do it yourself. I left most of my big stuff in Minnesota, so we bought a lot of stuff here locally. There's a cool store here called Rooms to Go where you can just basically go in and buy a whole room at a time. Pulling the trailer was a nightmare, making the whole rig way too long. If it was just the moving truck without the trailer, it would have been fine. I went to the Tervis Tumbler corporate store yesterday, and found these glasses. That picture is shot on my back deck. Small tropical yard. We have one of those here in Charlotte, too. It's convenient when you just want to get the furniture shopping over with. Down the road I will be posting a Business Accelerator progress thread. If you remember from the Millionaire Fast Lane, MJ's change in geography was simultaneous to the paradigm shift in his business. Physical geographical improvement accompanied a paradigm shift in psychological income generation. It was the catalyst to his launch of his Millionaire Fast Lane. I am a paper multimillionaire. Good cash flow, good strong business, but being a paper millionaire is very different than the Shark Tank crowd. If I sold the business today, I'd have to build another one. So along with the change in latitude is coming a change in attitude. I am going to go through a paradigm shift in income generation, and down the road I will share that with you in my Business Accelerator progress thread. The geographical relocation was significant for quality of life reasons, but it has to be accompanied by a financial acceleration. My son and I drove last night through an island area south of Tampa called Casey Key. It's a relatively private, Bentley-filled drive with the Gulf of Mexico on one side and the Intercoastal on the other. Stephen King, Oprah Winfrey and Rosie O'Donnell made their homes there amongst the 600 residents. My son fell in love with it, leading me to ask the natural question, what could keep you from living here? The answer for me personally lies in between today and my business accelerator. I am winding down my posts in this thread, going back underground for a while to drink in the new surroundings, reposition my company, and take a few drives down Casey Key. For those of you in the Tampa or St. Pete area, we will have a get-together this fall at Tampa Bay Downs. I have enjoyed chronicling this journey with all of you. Hopefully the continuation thread finishes the story that started here. My best. Vigilante. So oftentimes it happens that we live our lives in chains, and we never even know we have the key. The Eagles.